All right, good morning, friends. Hello, I'm back. I'm awake. I'm here, and you're here, and we're here, and there are hexagons to do. So many hexagons to do. And also two sessions of D&D recap, which is very important, and I'll start those around top of the hour like I usually do, about 50 minutes from now. But yeah, hi, welcome to the Totally Awake Club. I'm totally awake. Definitely awake. But yeah, hi, I'm SJ. I'm here to sew hexagons and admire ducks. Specifically the plastic kind. Yeah, and recap D&D. Good morning, Merlin. Good morning, Kitsune. Ugh. Kara, I'm sure, will be joining us soonish. She is downstairs making coffee. But yeah, I am a couple weeks behind. It's been a while. Because 2 weeks ago, we had friends visiting. And then last week, I was planning to stream and got sick. But here I am. We have 3 weeks of hexagons to do. Probably won't manage to finish and attach all 3 in one stream, but we'll give it a good go. But yeah, suddenly June is almost over, which I don't know how that happened. I don't know where June went. Yeah, bizarre. June has just completely disappeared on me. Ah, there she is. Good morning, Kara.
Wild coffee Rukula beers.
Let's see.
Amen.
Oh,
I have been tapped.
Also, everybody should praise Kara. He no longer has homework to work on during stream because she has graduated. And not only that, she graduated with a 3.99 GPA. So she has graduated with honors. So, yeah, make sure you congratulate Kara. She worked so hard. I'm very proud of her. And now she's free. Yaha has been called. We have embarrassed the Moogle. Excellent. Well done, team. Yeah, that should be fine. My phone is across the room, so I can't actually check. But yeah, it should be fine. Don't want to just walk over to the Timmies instead. I mean, you just need to come visit, Kitsune, and then we will happily provide you with donuts. I will take chocolate glazed double chocolate. The usual yummy ones. Yeah, they're on the desk.
I will return shortly with donut.
Yay, donuts! I need to make more. Paper scissors are on, which is interesting. Not sure where they went. Use tiny scissors. I do seem to remember coming upstairs to grab my scissors while Kite was here. And I don't remember why or where I put them. They're probably just downstairs somewhere. I don't remember why I needed to grab them. coffee. Oh, apologies. Oh, good. Sounds like Kara's back. Hopefully, Donut Quest was successful.
Donut Quest was indeed successful, though it was a near thing. They were out of a lot.
Oh no. Donuts.
Chocolate glaze, sour cream glaze.
I don't suppose you could bring me a fork.
Yes, I can do that.
It sounds silly, but then I don't have to get up and wash my hands.
Yeah, and there is a double chocolate for you, but it's for later. This is breakfast, no frosting.
Oh. Thank you. Okay, breakfast. Alright, pardon the pause while I eat my breakfast. It has donuts. Some might argue that getting your hands sticky is a part of the process, but I'm working with fabric here, so just avoid that. Reminder to anyone else, if you should also be grabbing breakfast and or other food, please do so. Mocha Oreo almond milk ice cap. Yeah, it sounds like Tim Hortons. Alright, we'll have other donut mix. I think this dice is broken. Woke up with a headache. Oh no. Yeah, that's not good. Rest. Hope it goes away soon. Headaches like that are never fun. As a reminder, the probably extra long D&D recap will be starting in about 10 minutes. So if you need to cycle your fluids, grab refills on drinks, foods, etc., you should probably do so now. Alright, there is a week's worth of hexagons. I'm going to take a minute to eat my other donut. And then we will launch into the D&D recap and getting these connected to the larger whole. But first, donut. Good old sour cream glaze. You need to give these guys a bit of a shuffle. Oh, hi, Akite. He has made it. What does that one say? Crimes? Oh, that's true. It's even the cuddly Kite. The cuddly one is back, guys. Did your login persist after you got home? Or did it kick you back out again? Oh no. No, Kite, that's a lot of O's. The donuts are the fault of Loading Ready Run. They had donuts on live last night, and Kara wanted donuts. What is the obvious big difference between Canada and the UK? This feels like a trick question. Climate? Landmass size. Oh no, maybe Kara's got it. Spelling. I'm guessing the actual answer is like ISP structure? Oh, time zones. Wait, why would time zones affect your Twitch login? What? Which blocks logins from computers that use UTC as a time zone? Why? That's so bizarre. That's so weird. Why would that even be a thing? If it's accidental, how would that even happen? And how were you able to log in on your phone if it was also the same time zone? So weird. Best working theory I have is that Linux machine that uses UTC is statistically more likely to be a bot than a human, because who uses UTC as a time zone? Oh god. That's bizarre. But at least now you have an answer? Rather than it just being mystery? Oh, a browser extension to change the time zone for this one domain. That makes sense. Still a pain in the butt that you have to do that, but at least now that you know, the fix is easy enough. Good lord. This has been what, like a 3-year saga? Good grief. Well, at least it's worked out now. Oh yeah, no, this is not worth going back to Twitter. Definitely not. So, it is 11 o'clock. So, 3 weeks ago, Hite and Barris and Kara and I met on the eve of battle. We were in the midst of a struggle with a dragon at the top of a lighthouse in the rain and the thunder. So we paused for a pancake breakfast. to fortify ourselves for the coming fight. And lo, it was delicious. And then Kite and Barris went back to their hotel rooms for the actual session, because as funny as it would be to have 4 of us physically crammed around one microphone, it would probably not make for the best play experience, especially in the midst of a dragon fight. So yes, we had breakfast. We had delicious pancakes and bacon made by Kara. And then we all settled in for the continuation of the fight with the blue dragon. So, to quickly recap the recap, since this was a while ago, we had arrived at the Tower of Storms, fought some cultists, headed upstairs, found the last cultist with a couple wind elementals, fought them. In the process of fighting them, made enough noise that we attracted the attention of Sparkbringer, the blue dragon resting at the top of the lighthouse that we had come to fight. Anyway. So we managed to take out the remaining cultist and all the elementals. And then the blue dragon came flying down. And we commenced battle with the blue dragon. At the point where we picked up this session, it was sort of hovering in midair, right above Lash, who was currently giant-sized, and, you know, poking at the dragon's underbelly. The dragon tried to sort of, like, pull up and away, but of course, pulling out of Lash's melee range allowed Lash to take an attack of opportunity, which hit. And because of the way Lash is set up, I don't remember if it's like a feature or a feat. But either way, when Lash hit with his opportunity attack, he was able to stop the dragon from getting away. So the dragon's movement became 0 for the turn, so it ended up staying in place and just kind of glared at Lash. And so it went, okay, fine, and in response just turned all of its attacks on Lash. Lash took some amount of damage. I do believe he stayed standing with exactly 1 HP, but he was still standing. But the dragon was unable to move away and was still hovering 20 feet directly above Lash. So Bram then sort of ducked out of where he had taken cover in the doorway to the tower. On his way past, was able to lay on hands Lash and at least give him some amount of HP back so that he wasn't hovering at 1. And then, if you'll remember, Glint had very graciously applied Spider Climb to both Bram and Lash, specifically to Bram to get him up the spiral staircase. But Spider Climb is still in effect. So Bram, seeing the dragon hovering 20 feet above him, but fairly close to the wall of the tower, just kind of skitters his way straight vertically up the side of the lighthouse, in order to get in reach to where he can strike at Sparkbringer with his Dragon Slayer sword. So he does that. He lashes out at the dragon twice. I believe both of them connect. And the second one, when it connects, Bram manages to slice just right that it catches Sparkbringer along like the hinge of the jaw and the throat and just cuts his throat open. And the dragon sort of spasms in midair and then just falls straight downward. Luckily, Lash is able to get out of the way in time and is not squished by Dragon Corpse. And the dragon just crumples to the ground. I believe this is when Randus rolled a ridiculous lightning strike. So, again, as a reminder, throughout this battle, we are in the middle of a thunderstorm, like active thunderstorm. So, throughout the course of this battle, Randus has been rolling a D100 for lightning strikes to tell whether lightning strikes somewhere out to sea or, further up the shore where it doesn't matter, or whether it strikes something on the roof. And I believe this is the point where Randus manages to roll a 1 on a D100, and there's just suddenly this barrage of lightning that strikes every available target on the roof. Which I believe at the time was like Bram, Lash, Basil, Timjar's rat familiar, the lightning rod, of course, and then up on the top of the lighthouse, which is also exposed to the elements, Arendiao and Glint. So all of them had to roll, saving throws. Luckily, Glint did not lose concentration on Spider Climb. That would have been bad, considering Bram was still 15 feet up the side of a lighthouse. But she was able to keep concentration on Spider Climb. And, all of us took some amount of lightning damage. It's probably fine. Bram started making his way back down to the ground. And meanwhile, Timjar sort of poked his head. Well, first, Arendiao... So Arendiao had gone up to the top of the lighthouse and was sort of leaning over the parapet to look down at the roof where the rest of us were kind of arrayed and where the dragon was now sort of flopped over. It was a 100 on a D100. Perfect. I couldn't remember which way it was, I just remembered it was one of the extremes. Seeing the dragon just kind of flopped out on the ground, Arendiao decides she wants to try to make sure it's dead, like properly dead. So she throws a psychic blade at it. And the psychic blade does hit. She can see like a wound sort of open up, but it doesn't seem like there's any other effect. Timjar, who had been inside the tower, pokes his nose out at this point and comes over to the corpse to kind of poke at it a little bit, like kind of get up close and personal, sort of figuratively peel the dragon's eyelid back, to try to properly poke at it. And whatever it is he sees, after a minute, he calls out to the rest of the party, guys, I don't think it's dead. Which, love to hear that after a dragon fight. And sure enough, lightning comes down and strikes the horn of the dragon, I believe. And those of us that are close to the dragon, watch as these 3 lightning bolts, like symbolic lightning bolts, just kind of emblazon themselves on the dragon's face, like 1 down its forehead and 1 down each cheek. Just, these 3 lightning bolts that we definitely haven't seen anywhere before, and definitely aren't the emblem of anyone that we know about. Definitely not the symbol of the master of this lighthouse. So yeah, and as these 3 lightning bolts kind of etch themselves into the dragon's hide, the dragon's eyes open, but they're like empty and vacant. And the dragon sort of heaves itself up to its feet and takes to the air again. And this time is hovering out kind of off the edge of the banister in the ocean. Not in the ocean, sorry, above the ocean. Further out of reach from any of us lowly melee people. Bram throws a hammer at it, which does hit for, you know, an amount of damage. I believe he also pulls out the Wand of Magic Missile at one point. Oh, that reminds me, I need to roll a couple of dice for those charges. We've had a couple days travel since then. But we'll get there. I will admit at this point my brain becomes a little bit fuzzy because the second half of combat went fairly quickly. The dragon did some shenanigans, did some lightning. Excuse me. Donuts. And I believe Phalar threw another chromatic orb at it, which is, I believe, what finally got the kill. I believe Arendiao also threw a psychic blade at it, but this time the psychic blade didn't seem to have an effect, which is interesting and, you know, only a little concerning. But yeah, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, again, this was 3 weeks ago, I believe it was Phalar's chromatic orb that managed to smash sort of into the dragon's side, right where it was already frost-coated, and sort of scarred from his fight with Cryovane. And the dragon, again, kind of like wings still beating, parts of the dragon just kind of started falling off and into the ocean below. It was almost like it was just crumbling apart. Still animated, wings still beating, still trying to, oh, that's right, that's what it did. I'm like, I know there was a thing. Yes. As soon as it awoke, it launched this giant ball of lightning right into the tower doorway. So it managed to hit basically everybody that was in the tower or near the tower doorway. Yes, that's right. Thank you, Randus. And that was painful. That was hurty. I don't think any of us actually went down from it, but it hurt. I believe that's the point where Bram expended the charge on his mask to be able to use the lightning resistance charge to have the damage. I think Glint might have also.
A fluffy, grumpy dragon. She's been pacing.
She is a fluffy, grumpy dragon.
She collects toys and demands food at all times.
I do.
Oh, look at that immediate loaf down. Is this what you wanted? Is this why you were yelling?
Was Lash the only person to go unconscious in this fight? No, I believe Basil also briefly lost consciousness earlier. Not in this session with the second half, but I believe he did earlier. In this session, I think, yeah, Lash was the only one. Bram was very close, but did not actually go down. Hi, baby. Gonna settle and stay for a while? Yeah? Yeah? You want pets or do you not want pets? It goes either way with you. Yeah, basically everyone that was wearing a mask used their charge to help resist this ball because we were all kind of like, oh fuck! And most of us had already taken some amount of damage anyway. So yeah, Phalar managed to hit it, and parts of the dragon started falling off into the ocean. And eventually the dragon just kind of crumbled and went splashing down into the ocean. And there were definitely a certain gigantic shark eating a large amount of the dragon corpse, but that's not, it's fine. It's just what sharks do. The dragon is just chum. It's fine. So as the dragon crumbled and fell down into the ocean, we all kind of breathed a massive sigh of relief. Sort of. Because we knew, again, as a reminder, we knew that Phandalin had been attacked by Cryovane. We had gotten a frantic sending stone call from Thilidar's assistant, Benny. And so we knew, okay, the blue dragon is dead. Twice. But now we need to hurry our way back to Phandalin to try to see, you know, what damage is done, how can we help. So we say our farewells to Timjar. Again, Barris's known character. Because the whole reason he was here in the first place was to try to scout out Dragon's Hoard, if there was one. And so he was gonna stay behind and like thoroughly loot the tower and explore and try to figure out if the dragon had any treasures. And the rest of us basically went, okay, sure, knock yourself out. We gotta get back to Phandalin. Bye. And so the rest of us headed out. Timjar did spend a few hours sort of thoroughly searching the tower. And under the staircase, where the cultists... Bye! Bye! I love you. There she go. Under the staircase, where the cultists had stashed, you know, like rations and water barrels and other miscellaneous supplies, Timjar managed to find a loose paving stone, and underneath was a small cache of items. There was a fancy cloak. I believe it was like a disguise cloak. And a few other miscellaneous bits and baubles, which Timjar was very happy to pocket. And then as he was leaving the tower, Timjar just so happened to look out into the ocean, and as he was watching, the giant shark Daggermaw was, you know, swimming around and maybe did another jump so Timjar could tell for sure that it was that giant shark. And now it's like got glowing lines sort of down its body, and it looks a little bit more, how did you describe it, Randus? A little bit more elementally than you would normally expect a shark to be. So, you know, having eaten bits of Talos reanimated dragon corpse, I'm sure this shark is not going to be a problem at all. It's confined to the ocean. Our party doesn't know about it. It's not her problem yet. We are all out of game, very worried about when it does become our problem, but so far it's not our problem. So yeah, Timjar basically sees the giant shark and essentially like waves at it and then walks the other direction. So yeah, And thus Timjar left the party. Maybe he'll show up again in the future if Barris decides he wants to guest star again, because that was a lot of fun. So yeah, the rest of the party heads back toward the Wayside Inn. Because we know we need to get back to Phandalin, but Bram knows, and they all know that if we push ourselves and end up arriving exhausted, we're not going to be able to help anyone, and the dragon attack has already happened, so whatever's done is done. If we arrive too exhausted to help or too exhausted to fight, it's not gonna help anybody. So we do need to be responsible enough to take rests as we're traveling. We can't just push through. So first stop, we head back to the Wayside Inn. Yeah, that's true. We can all simply join Lash on his journey home. We'll safely be 2,000 kilometers from the nearest navigable river. Yeah, there's no way the shark can find us in the desert. Perfect. So as we approach the Wayside Inn, various members of the party notice that there's a light on up on the second floor when we didn't think we had left any lights on. And our first thought is like, oh, well, like maybe the innkeeper is up and about. Maybe Marisha's okay. Morticia, sorry. Well, like we know she's okay, but she's completely exhausted. So like, oh, maybe she woke up. But as we sort of poke our nose into the kitchen, it looks like the kitchen has been not ransacked, but like gone through, and it looks like maybe somebody made an attempt at like making food, but like not in, how do I put this? Not in the most skillful way. And whatever signs Basil sees, Basil seems to recognize. Because Basil just kind of goes, oh heck. The kitchen, not ransacked. Other places, maybe a little ransacked. Fair. Basil kind of goes, oh heck, and heads upstairs. And in the room with the innkeeper, we find a woman sitting beside her bed, just kind of sort of trying to get her. The innkeeper is still completely passed out. She is still very exhausted. But this new mystery woman is sitting beside her and kind of trying to get her to drink a little bit of water. Like, even though she's passed out, you know, kind of like dribbling a little bit between her lips, trying to get her to at least drink a little bit while she's passed out. And Basil recognizes her immediately and calls her Marcella, the alias. And above table, this is Kitte's new character. Because now that we've killed the blue dragon, Lash's personal quest is complete. Like, that's what Lash journeyed all the way here to do. His mission was to destroy this blue dragon and sort out the prophecies that are dealing with this in his homeland. So now that he has completed this quest, he's coming with us back to Phandalin, because again, he is concerned about, oh crap, aftermath of the White Dragon attack. But then his plan is to probably head home. So this Marcella, or actually her name is Adela, is Kitte's new character. And she and Basil, right from the moment we arrive, she and Basil seem to have a little bit of history. They seem to know each other. There's maybe a little bit of animosity. It's not like outright hostility. But it's more the sense of Basil going, like, hey, I know you, I'm not gonna put up with your shit, kind of thing. So there's that. A couple people go downstairs to start trying to see if we can pull together a dinner. Lash and Bram start cleaning up some of the bodies. To, you know, at least so that, like, we know we're gonna have to leave. Things aren't gonna be perfect. But we want to try to make it a little bit easier on the innkeeper, since we did cause most of these bodies. The basement is probably still going to be a little bit of a lost cause, but we're going to at least, like, clear out the bodies, try to clean up some of the blood stain while we have time, you know, that kind of thing. And while Lash is downstairs in the basement, he happens to notice that that cursed stone, or the cursed thunder axe that we had left sort of wrapped in the hand of the large statue, that axe seems to have mysteriously vanished. And we know this axe is not good. This is a cursed axe of Talos. So Lash comes back upstairs, and Adela is in the kitchen, sort of kind of trying to help with dinner, but again, not very skillfully. And so Lash, being Lash, just kind of makes a comment to the air of like, oh, I hope whoever removed that first axe that was downstairs knows that it belongs to, you know, a terrible evil god of destruction, and that they probably shouldn't be messing around with it. And Adela kind of gives him this look of like, I know exactly what you're on about. And she says that she's like, oh yes, I took that axe because I've been sent to this area looking for a cursed axe. And, you know, I don't think it's this one, but I'm going to take it back to the College of Lore and make sure that it gets put away in a safe place. And Basil, who is also helping with dinner, basically immediately calls her bluff and insight checks her. And is like, no, seriously, like, this is a very bad axe. Like, it was able to summon an avatar of Talos. We do not want it falling into the wrong hands. You cannot sell it for 2 gil in a sock, basically. And it does kind of manage to convince Adela, it seems, because she kind of like heaves a sigh and she's like, all right, I will actually take it to the College of Lore. Like, they do actually have places where they can hang on to items like this securely. I will actually make sure it gets to them. Yeah, exactly, Kate. It belongs in a secure museum. So we all... Basil and Lash kind of accept that. They're like, alright, we'll keep an eye on you as long as it actually does, you know, end up going back to the College of Lore. Like, just seriously, don't mess around with it. This axe is bad news. And Adela's kind of like, alright, fine. So, we all take our rest. The next morning, Bram goes to check in on the innkeeper, finds her still asleep, but she is, like, looking a little bit better. Like, there's some color in her cheeks. She does, you know, the smudgy circles under her eyes aren't quite as dark. So Bram updates the note that he had left beside her, kind of adds a section to the end where he's like, hey, we did manage to kill the blue dragon. We're heading back through. We have to get back to Phandalin. Sorry about the mess. And if you ever need anything, like, we're based out of Phandalin. You can find us there, kind of thing. And Glint makes sure to leave some cheese and water right at the bedside, so as soon as she does wake up, she'll be able to, grab a snack and hopefully get back on the road to recovery. But unfortunately, we're not able to stay. Again, we are well aware that Phandalin had a dragon attack, so we need to head back. Graham offers to Adela, like, hey, if you're headed in the same direction, you're welcome to travel with us. And she kind of gives him a look and is like, I have been sent to this end of the world, looking for a cursed axe. And that axe was last seen during a White Dragon's raid on Neverwinter. And we all kind of went, oh. So she, long story short, she expects that the axe that she's looking for has become a part of the dragon's hoard. So she, without saying so in so many words, she kind of indicated that since we are planning to kill the white dragon, she's going to tag along with us. And once we kill the dragon, she will claim the axe that she wants. Which is a fun vibe. And she was very clear that killing the dragon is our problem. Which is fine. It kind of is, anyway. Hopefully she'll help a little bit, but TBD. So we leave the inn, and all of us head back toward, along the road toward Phandalin. And as we do, as we're traveling, the sending stone in Phalar's pocket sort of warms up again. And when he pulls it out, he hears Celadar's voice. Oh, that's sorry, that's the other thing. So the first thing in the morning, Phalar had pulled out his sending stone and tried to cast sending to get a hold of Celadar, but it hadn't gone through. However, that just means that nobody's holding it at the moment. It could be in like a desk drawer, or sitting on a table or something. And we kind of know from interacting with him that Celadar seems to be the kind of person that he keeps the sending stone as a way to message us, as a way to like send messages out, not necessarily to like keep it on him at all times to receive messages. So the fact that Phalar can't message him could mean nothing, could be bad, but could also mean nothing, because Celadar is the kind of person that would just kind of leave it on a shelf until he actually needs to use it. So we set out and start traveling. And as I mentioned, as we do, the sending stone does grow warm in Phalar's pocket, so he pulls it out, and we get Celadar's voice, and Celadar just goes, fuck, she's back. Because of course, we've started a day of travel, so Randus had us roll for Dragon, and managed to roll Phandalin again. So that's bad. Phalar sends back to Celadar, like, hey, we're on our way back. We'll try to get there as quickly as we can, but we're about a day and a half out. We'll be there as soon as we can, basically. Sorry, had to take a drink there. But still, like, again, it's that same thought that if we try to push on and get to Phandalin in one day, we're gonna be too exhausted when we get there to be any help at all. So we do stop to take a long rest. And then the next morning continue our way toward the town. As we're sort of getting, not like approaching Phandalin, but as we're moving in the direction of Phandalin, we do think we kind of spy the dragon in the air, like in the distance, flying south, sort of away from Phandalin. So that's reassuring. We think she's at least moving away from Phandalin. Because again, above table, this is another new day, so we rolled for the dragon again, and thank God did not roll Phandalin again. So she sort of headed somewhere south. Not sure exactly where. Sorry. But yeah, so we approach Phandalin from the direction of the Triboar Trail, so from the north. And as we're approaching, the first thing that we notice is off to one side, the apple orchard that Darren lived at and worked. The entire apple orchard is just gone. Like it's been blasted by frost, trees are frozen and limbs are snapped, entire trees are uprooted. The whole area is just covered in shards of ice and thick frost that's only just like sort of starting to melt a bit. The rest of like the north end of town seems to be okay. But yeah, it's mostly the damage in this area seems to be concentrated at the orchard. So Glint, predictably, he's like, oh god, Darren, and goes running off in that direction to try to find him. Or at least, survey the damage, try to see how bad it is. And Basil goes after her. And seeing at least that Basil is going with her, Bram kind of nods and continues into town, because as much as he wants to, go help try to find Darren, who knows what else has happened. And he figures that Glint and Basil can probably handle that bit, and he wants to go try to get a bit more of a whole town view of what does the whole town look like. So Bram continues into town. Bram and the rest of the party, which at this point I believe is Tikarn, Flash, Marcella, Phalar, head into the center of town. The town square itself is deserted. There's a little bit of damage to buildings. The well has been completely knocked over and destroyed, and peering down into the well, it looks like it's completely frozen and is only just now starting to melt. Brandis says, it almost as though the dragon had breathed down directly into it. We'll remind everyone, Darren is the highest level NPC we all know in town. Yes, that is a factual statement. We don't know actually what his level is, but we know that he's a retired, very decorated adventurer. But yes, the well has been knocked over and frozen. There's some gouges in the earth where it looks like the dragon landed. There isn't too much damage to buildings in the town square. But it's deserted. People are in their houses. As we pass, we can see people sort of peering out of windows, looking around shutters, but for obvious reasons, people aren't super eager to go outside at this exact moment. Continuing south, it looks like the entire front of the Miners' Exchange has just been ripped open. Everything is smashed, just the building has been ripped open by dragon claws, maybe. And right next to the Miners' Exchange is the herbalist's shop, the herbalist shop and house, which thankfully seems to be undamaged. So Bram stops there to check in with Mira. And when he knocks on the door is actually answered by Adabra, who, if you don't remember that name, Adabra is the potion maker that lives down in the windmill, a fair bit south of town. She was our very first quest, way back when we first arrived in Phandalin. We were supposed to convince her to move into town, and she refused. She wanted to stay in her windmill. But now she's here, and she looks like completely shaken up. Like, shaking and stuttering. Like, her face is pale. Bram tries his best to be, like, reassuring and comforting, and, you know, is asking her what happened. And it turns out the dragon attacked the windmill as well. She managed to luckily get into the basement and was sheltering down there. So she's unhurt physically. But like, the entire windmill has been destroyed. All of her potions are gone. Her livelihood is gone. And actually Droop, our goblin friend, is the one that found her. Droop had gone to the windmill to pick up the new stock of potions for the herbalist shop. And was able to move enough debris to get the cellar door open and rescue Adabra before she starved to death, because she was stuck down there once the debris fell across the door. So Droop may deserve a medal. Just, you know, putting that out there. He has literally saved a woman's life now. So it looks like for the moment, Adabra is going to be staying with Mira and her family in town. At least until she can figure out what she's going to do next. Mira also comes downstairs and speaks to Bram briefly. She's kind of like, oh, sorry if you're here about the potions, they're not done yet. Although they are still in progress, thankfully. And Bram tries to reassure her, like, no, that's fine. We just wanted to make sure that, like, you and your family are okay and you're not hurt. And she was kind of like, yeah, well, you know, dragon attacks aren't good, but my immediate family is okay, kind of thing. And she's able to tell Bram in a little bit more detail what exactly happened with the first dragon attack. So it looks like the first dragon attack from several days ago happened on this end of town. And she says that the dragon landed in the square and just like ripped into a group of people that were, you know, just out and about minding their business. Personal favorite part of this is that everyone is so shaken up they don't notice we have another new party member. It's true. But yeah, so Cryovane had landed in the town square and sort of just ripped into this group of people, like 7 or 8 people that were just minding their own business. And she just kind of devoured them all. Myrna says that there was one person that was remained standing. Standing being the technical term, considering it was only about half of him. And then from there she sort of rampaged down and was sort of ripping into the miners' exchange, probably looking for more people to eat. But as she was doing that, some gnomes came riding up on this giant rotating platform with these giant, like, ballista-like crossbows, and started firing at her, you know, to try to get her attention. And it sure did get her attention, because she left the miners' exchange alone and went roaring down to use essentially her frost breath on, yeah, quest 1 and quest 2 callbacks in one scene. Used her for Frost Breath to just freeze the entire ballista. When Bram goes down to take a look at it, it's like knocked over and just destroyed. The 3 gnomes that had been working it are all dead. Still strapped into like the harnesses that they had been using. Yeah. So that but then after she sort of threw the gnomes about, then she took off and flew away. So that was the end of the first attack. Meanwhile, so I'm trying to figure out what order to tell this in. So meanwhile, Phalar had actually split off at the town square and headed over to the manor to touch base with Silidar. Again, kind of trying to divide and conquer. He figures that Bram has got the southern end of town in hand, and he'll go check in with Silidar. So he heads in that direction. He heads into the manor. So first he pokes into the inn. The innkeeper and his wife, and I think it's their kid. And then also the Lady of Frost, the Dragonborn merchant, and her daughter are there. Again, the innkeeper and his wife seem to be physically unhurt, but, you know, obviously pretty shaken up. The Lady of Frost is sort of moving around the inn, just kind of gently touching things. And Phalar kind of surmises that she's maybe not like actively doing magic, but like kind of reinforcing what's already there, or like checking to make sure what's there is still intact, kind of thing. He speaks to the innkeeper. Yeah, Pip is their kid. That's what I thought. Okay. He speaks to the innkeeper, and again, the innkeeper kind of expresses the same thing, that they're all pretty shaken up. And he kind of mentions like the dragon was right there, but she flew right over us and she didn't even seem to see us. And the Lady of Frost just kind of calls out, "You're welcome." I love her. She's amazing. Yeah, so then Phalar heads further toward the manor. Meets up, as he heads inside, he meets up with Silidar, sort of almost on his way out. And Phalar is like, "Hey, like, is there any, like, we just got back into town, is there anything we can do? How can we help?" And Selidar's kind of like, "Well, where's the rest of the party?" And Phalar's like, "Oh, they're around." Glint and Basil, Glint and a friend went to go check on Darren in the orchard. And everyone else kind of headed into town to try to see, you know, take survey of the damage and see what can be done. And Silidar was like, "Okay, good. If they've gone to check the orchard, that means I don't have to. But there's going to be a lot of rebuilding to do. Adabra is going to need to have the windmill rebuilt, etc., etc." Actually, when Phalar's like, "How can we help?" Selidar's first response is kind of, "Well, you could kill a dragon. That would help." And Phalar's like, "Believe me, that's on our to-do list. But we were thinking of the more immediate, like, what can I do at this moment to help?" And Silidar's kind of like, "Well, you know, just I don't know, like, figure out how you can kill the dragon is the best thing you can do to help, essentially." Meanwhile, I need to take a drink again. Meanwhile, Glint and Basil run for the orchard. And yeah, like the whole orchard is just a mess. Like trees are uprooted, everything's frozen. Now that they're closer and can like actually get a better view of the damage, there's like this giant burrow in the ground, almost like the dragon had like come in for a landing and like gouged through the ground, and there's like this big like upswelling of dirt where she almost as though she had like come in at speed and like skidded to a stop and like pushed up a pile of dirt in front of her, kind of thing. And at the edge of that gouge, like where that big upswelling of dirt is, they see a body. They see Darren. Well, Glint obviously immediately recognizes him as Darren, laying on the ground with this giant silver broadsword beside him, and missing a leg. So Glint screams and goes running over, and somehow, amazingly, Darren is still alive. He's still breathing. It's very shallow. The stump of where his leg was looks blackened, and like extremely like frost charred. To put it, yeah, so it looks like he, from what Glint can tell, it looks like it had been extremely frostbitten, and perhaps Darren had cut off his leg himself to keep the frostbite from spreading, because the edge of the wound looks cut as opposed to like broken or shattered, as you might expect if it had just like frozen. So there's that, but because of that, it's not bleeding actually, which may have been what saved his life. Because at least he hadn't bled out. His breathing is extremely shallow, however, so Glint immediately throws a Cure Wounds on him to at least get him hopefully out of danger, get him hopefully stabilized. As she throws the healing at him, he sort of like flails awake, with, mildly unintelligible swearing, sort of tries to roll over and grab for his sword, but sees that it's Glint there kneeling beside him, and basically goes, "Oh, Glint, good," and then just passes out again. Which, as you might expect after having sustained this level of traumatic injury. So Glint has Shadowmane with her. She had actually called Shadowmane earlier to make traveling a little bit easier and quicker. So together, she and Basil managed to get Darren up on Shadowmane, because neither of them is strong enough to just straight up carry him. But every time they try to like move him a little bit, he like reaches out to try to grasp for his sword and is like, struggling to wake up, and at least keep a hold of his sword. So Glint and Basil do their best to try to be reassuring of like, hey, it's okay, we've got you, we've got your sword, we're not going to take it away, you'll be okay, try to relax. And as they're moving him up onto Shadowmane and starting to head toward town, Glint notices that the area where we had buried Bezleek, in the game it was like 3 weeks ago. Maybe more like a month or two ago. But IRL, it's been a couple years. the area where we had buried Bezleek is like torn up. And the gravestone is just gone. Not like Cryovane was trying to like dig them up, or not like they did dig them up or anything, but Glint manages to intuit like, oh, that's where the attack started. Because Darren was there changing out the flowers or tending to the grave, and Cryovane saw an easy opportunity. So Glint is pissed at this point. Pissed and very worried. So Glint and Basil, with Darren on Shadowmane, head back into town. And as they're entering the town square, they manage to meet Bram and Lash and Marcella coming back up from the south after they've surveyed the gnome ballista. And Glint, of course, is like, Bram, Darren's hurt. Oh god, he's hurt. Oh yes, that's true. We do stop to check Darren's house, just to make sure that there wasn't anybody else that had, like, tried to take shelter in there or anything. The house is empty. However, there's a heavy smell of smoke in the air. And it turns out that apparently Darren had probably been in the middle of preparing dinner when or lunch when Cryovane attacked. Because there is a fair amount of smoke. The fire in the oven has gone out, so that's lucky. But there's like an extremely charred chicken. Like charred to the point that if one of them touches it, it just kind of crumbles away into charcoal flakes. Kind of charred, so poor chicken. So Basil just kind of opens all the windows so that hopefully when Darren's ready to return home, it'll be kind of aired out and not smell of smoke anymore. But yeah, so then they continue on to the town square and meet up with Bram and the others. There's a brief discussion about where we should try to take Darren, like where is he gonna get the best care. And we managed to determine that that's actually probably with us. Like Glint and Bram and Garnal have healing. They're probably the ones best able to see to Darren's wounds. So we bring Darren back to the manor to get him sort of settled into a bed. Silidar finds us and is like, oh, and on our way back to the manor, we see Phalar heading away from the manor down toward Alderley Farms. Again, to just kind of continue the rounds to check on our contacts in town. The party kind of waves at him, and Phalar waves back, but there's not like any urgent need to meet up immediately, so Phalar kind of continues on his way. We get Darren back to the manor and settled into a bed. Silidar has a tourniquet for him and is like, oh god, you know, Darren, and gets the leg at least bound up. Oh, and also, I believe this is a bit of info he gave to Phalar earlier, but it's somewhat relevant. Our gardener at the manor, reminder, is a gnome. And so the gnome gardener had been able to pass on the gnomes of Gnomengard had taken the destruction of their ballista kind of in stride, and they're like, okay, now we build it again, better and bigger and more shielded and insulated. We salute the deaths of these 3 gnomes, and their deaths will serve to the progress of science, kind of thing. Which is, you know, that sounds right for gnomes. So they are working on a replacement ballista. No ETA on when it'll be done, but they are working on trying to improve it so that hopefully next time if it has the chance to go up against the dragon again, it will be more successful. Yeah, the first ballista was unfortunately only designed for combat operations in Northern Europe. Exactly. Exactly, Kate. There was another little bit of info I know I wanted to give. What was it? Oh, it'll come to me. Oh, that's what it was. There's also so from the way that it looked in the orchard, Glint and a few of the things Darren mumbled, Glint is able to discern that Darren might have actually been able to wound Cryovane pretty badly. Whatever blow he did manage to strike fended her off and got her to stop the attack and leave. So we don't know how bad it was exactly, but we do know that Darren did manage to land some kind of a probably fairly serious blow to Cryovane. So that'll be interesting. Yes, and Benny. The other thing is that once we get back to the manor and are talking with Celadar, he reveals that Benny is no longer here. After the first dragon attack, Benny was basically like, screw this, I'm out of here, I'm gonna go back to Icewind Dale where at least the dragons don't eat people, and he just fucked off. Celadar's not happy about that. He called Benny a coward, and mentioned to us that if we know anyone that wants to be his new assistant. I will also note we haven't seen Merrick around. I presume he's probably lurking around the manor somewhere, or maybe he's moved on somewhere else, but we don't actually know yet. We haven't seen him about, and we haven't had the chance to ask Celadar. Or rather, Celadar hasn't mentioned one way or the other. So yeah, Benny has fucked off back to Icewind Dale, where he came from, presumably. Meanwhile, Phalar headed down to Alderley Farms, to try to touch base with the druid there. Again, just to kind of check in with our various allies. Hey, how you doing? Is everything okay? How can we help? Are you hurt? That kind of thing. He knocks on the door and doesn't get an answer. But he does kind of hear like a little bit of like shuffling from the barn that's nearby, and when he glances over, he sees like this little tiny patat. Just, you know, this absolute little potato of a halfling child. You know, like an 8-year-old halfling kid. So they're like the size of my laptop. Just peeking out around the corner, and every time Phalar glances over at them, they kind of duck back behind the door again. But after a couple knocks with no answer, Phalar turns, kind of heads over to the barn, and peeks in and is kind of like, hey, hi. And it is indeed a tiny child halfling potato. And Phalar's like, I'm looking for Kaylin, which is the name of the druid that lives here. And the kid's like, I don't know who that is. Who's Kaylin? And Phalar's like, the woman that lives here and works on this farm. And the kid's like, I don't know who that is. The woman that works here is named Mommy. And Phalar's like, okay, then I'm looking for Mommy. And the kid's like, oh, she went over to the Townmaster's house, because Townmaster Harbin twisted his ankle, and Mama was gonna go wrap it up and take care of him. And Phalar's like, okay, cool. But before he can leave, the kid is like, hey, you're magic, right? Can you show me a trick? Can you make me fly? And Phalar's like, no, I can't make you fly. Because that's true at the moment. Phalar doesn't currently have any spells that would allow him to have the kid fly. He could learn them, but he doesn't have them at the moment. So the kid's just like, aw. But then the and again, this is a tiny potato. So like the kid is craning his neck back so far to try to look up at Phalar that he ends up like falling over onto his back. And he's like, "You're too tall. Why are you so tall?" And holds his arms up for Phalar to pick him up. And Phalar's just like, "Okay." And scoops this little kid up. Because, you know, he weighs like 3 pounds. So the kid is delighted by this. Very happy for uppies. And is like, you know, show me a trick, do a trick. And so Phalar uses prestidigitation to make some like fireworks and sparks go off. Which the kid is super happy about and is like clapping and demanding more. And Phalar clearly has like no idea what to do with a kid. And Phalar is like, I have a friend who can maybe come and play with you and show you some much better tricks than what I can. Thinking of Glint, because Glint would be delighted to, you know, play with a halfling child. The halfling child also wants to know where Light is. He phrases it as where is Big Cat Friend? Because Big Cat Friend used to come have tea with Mommy. Because that is a thing that Light did. He would come and have tea with the druid. And all Phalar can think to say is like, oh, well, they're currently visiting their mommy. Because, like, that's kind of true. In a way that a little kid will understand. Light is away with, like, his family from the Abbey, including his adoptive mother. So, like, yeah, sure. But the kid seems to accept this and is just like, oh, alright, fine. Yeah, close enough, exactly. So Phalar puts the kid back down, and then heads off into town to check in on the druid and the townmaster. And as he's approaching the townmaster's house, the druid is just storming out of it, like swearing up a storm of like, oh, that stubborn old bastard, like, I was just trying to help, and he needs me to wrap up his ankle, and he's such a stubborn old fool, etc., etc., etc. And Phalar's response is basically just like, wow, that sucks, kind of thing. But, you know, checks in with the druid, makes sure she's okay, that she and her family have everything they need, kind of thing. And then Phalar also heads back to reassures her that yes, our party is going to be trying to take care of this dragon sooner rather than later. And then Phalar also heads back to the manor to meet up with everybody else. So about this point, we are all back at the manor, kind of gathered around Darren's bedside, starting to kind of make plans about, okay, we've got a dragon to slay. How do we want to do this? And that is actually where we broke session, so that we can kind of like attempt to come up with a plan out of session and not have to try to roleplay the whole thing. So hopefully over the next 2 weeks we'll kind of come up with a plan. And then, yeah, head out and slay a dragon. But yeah, sure was a couple sessions. There sure were things that happened. I don't think I missed anything crucial. Oh. Probably not crucial, but interesting small detail. So Darren's sword has a very interesting design, and it's clearly very high quality. It's not just the kind of magical sword that anyone would have. And it is very magical. That much is clear. But the crossguard of it does have a crossguard, but like the way that it's designed is like a fisted gauntlet, like wrapped around gripping the blade. And Basil and Adela both recognize this as being the sort of an emblem of the Order of the Gauntlet, I think is what it was called. And not just like a membership symbol, but like for somebody to have a sword of this quality with that kind of emblem worked into it, they would have to be like a very high-ranking officer in the order. Which, again, we knew Darren was a retired adventurer. We don't really have that many details about his past, but this is an interesting tidbit. And as soon as she realizes that, Marcella Adela, Marcella is the current alias she's using, but her actual name is Adela, so if I refer to her by multiple names, that's why. Adela kind of tucks the necklace with her family crest sort of out of sight, so that in case Darren happens to wake up, he won't be able to see it. And why she did that, nobody knows. Well, presumably Kate knows. None of the rest of us know. But it's an interesting little tidbit that may or may not ever become relevant again. And now you know. Oh, Randus might even... That's true, Randus might also know. I just assume Randus knows everything. Any children love uppies? Ask me how I know. How could you possibly know that, Kuma? I don't think you've ever been around tiny children, ever. I personally, my favorite little detail was the kid being like, no, her name is Mommy. Because that is also absolutely how kids think. No, her name isn't Kaylin. I don't know a Kaylin. Her name is Mommy. Got some bad news. I totally just make it up as I go. Well, you're doing a very good job, Randus. You have us all fooled. So keep up the good work, I guess. I'm just going to attach this last hexagon, and then we will probably take a break. We're a little bit past break time, but that, as I expected, was a very long D&D recap, considering it covered 2 sessions. But yeah, Glint is very upset because, like, the dragon hurt Darren and destroyed the orchard and destroyed Besleek's grave. And there was a very interesting moment where she said that, and Bram was the only one that reacted, and we properly realized that literally Bram and Glint are the only ones that would have known Bezleek. And Light, but Light is currently not here. Everybody else has switched out or joined after Bezleek died. Which is interesting to think about. But yeah, Bram kind of offered her a little comfort and was like, "Don't worry, once all this is over and settled, we'll go and fix up the grave and make sure that it's tidy and that Bezleek is remembered." But yeah, Glint is not happy. Glint may want to 1v1 a dragon. Luckily, the rest of us are here to keep her from 1v1ing a dragon. Oh, also, the other little fun tidbit is that Glint, well, rather, Kara, is in fact the one that saved Darren's life. Because while we were traveling on the road, and Randus was working out exactly how the second dragon attack would affect Phandalin, he had Kara roll a d20, which she rolled an 18, and it turns out that was Darren's death save. So, good job, Kara. Well, the headache hasn't gotten worse. It is still there, so you couldn't call it. Yeah, please rest, Randus. I hope that headache gets better soon. Have a good day. And yes, rest well. Thank you for at least showing up for the recap. I do appreciate it. Oh, right. The other interesting, well, not interesting, but the other bit of housekeeping that I totally sailed over mentioning is that between those two sessions, after fighting the blue dragon, we leveled up again. So we are now currently level 9, which is exciting. I am excited for Bram because it gets him access to 2 of the spells that I have been waiting to get him access to. And I'm excited to get to try them out. Glint is now a level 3 cleric and has chosen the Order of the Trickster. She is now officially a Trickster cleric in addition to being a warlock. I'm not sure if anyone else got anything super interesting upon level up, but yeah, we are now a level 9 party. I just totally sailed over mentioning that because I ran right from one session into the other. Uh-oh. Is Amstram okay? Strem seems okay from my end. Think Strem am okay? Okay, good. Excellent. I see that BGA redemption. I finish this seam, I will take my break, and then when we return, board games, as is tradition. There we go. That is week 1's hexagons. 2 more weeks to get caught up on. But first, I will go take a break. Everybody get up, stretch, move around, grab refills on your drinks if you need to, and I'll be back in a few minutes with some board games. Oops. It's fine.